Hello, my name is Juanita and I'm one of the training consultants for Medtech. This webinar is designed to show you how to set up staff in the NES setup. There's a new setup menu called Connected Health Information Services located under Setup, Connected Health Information Services, NES Setup. It's in this screen you need to enter your login credentials supplied to you by the Ministry of Health. The first tab, Practice Setup. Here you copy the username and password and paste each one into the fields. As a tip, our recommendation is to avoid manual entering. After this is done, go ahead and click on the Validation Test button to confirm connectivity. For some, this may take a few minutes, but that's okay. This is going through the check and confirming with the server that these credentials, username, password and HPI are correct. You then click on OK, save and exit out to confirm. If you did not receive a confirmation successful message, just go through and check that there are no spaces from the cursor to the ID. For example, here you can see a space between the cursor and the ID. Just remove these and click on the validation test to try again. The next tab, Staff Setup. Here you can also enter the permissions and level of access each staff member will have to both identity services here and the enrolment services. The setup of staff access to the NES is done here in this section only. This is where you provide the level of access that you deem to be necessary for each of the users. You do need to tick the access level checkboxes individually. This is so each practice is making an informed decision for each user. When you add a new staff member, the checkboxes are unticked by default, so that means no access level rights. On the left-hand side is the different access levels here, referred to as identity and NHI services, all self-explanatory. NHI search, this allows access level to search for the patient. NHI View gives the user the ability to view the entire record for the patient. NHI Update allows the user to update and make changes to the NHI record. And the NHI Add, this allows the user to add a new patient and also get a new NHI. On the right is the Enrolment Services section, which contains a similar view and self-explanatory. Search and View allows the user to search and view the patient's enrolment details. Update enrolment, this allows you to update the details, for example update and ending an enrolment. New enrolment enables the user to create a new enrolment for the patient. The next section here is the Registration Status Setup. This setup has two sections, NES Notifications and Ending Enrolments, which indicate the parameters of an unenrolled patient. The first section here is the Under NES Notifications. This is referring to the notifications to unenroll a patient from your system based on a number of criteria. The important point to note here is this allows you to select what status the registration of that patient should change to based on your business rules. For example, if a patient transfers out of your practice to another practice, the system will then generate a transfer notification and send it to you via your notification inbox. I'll show you this later. Or another way to explain this is when it comes into your system, it will then find that patient and it will automatically change the registered status to the status you have selected here, which in this case, I'll select Transferred. So again, you will need to make an informed decision on what your notifications will be set up as, and quite important from a business or practice perspective. Here you can see the default settings for the enrolment transferred to new provider. Our default is set at transferred, but our practice rule, and we'd like to set this at, in the drop down we have a selection here, do not change status, This allows you to keep the patient status that you already have here, and then you can make the manual changes accordingly. Under NHI link, our default is set at registered. So an example here might be when NHI numbers get linked via Ministry of Health, NHI database may see two different patients and realise it's one single patient. So they merge the patients NHI together, and in that scenario, end the enrolment for both the patients. And if the patient belongs to your practice, Ministry of Health will send a notification saying their enrolment has been ended. So it has been linked and back to your practice for action. Patient deceased. Our default is set as deceased. Enrolment expired. Our default is set at not registered. On the right here, registration status set up for ending enrolments. This is to do with the manual ending of an enrolment, but you have the ability to update an enrolment. So if you feel that a patient enrolment needs to end for any one of these reasons, you can then go into NES system, update the enrolment and end it accordingly, and select one of the workflows or statuses here. Once you've saved it, it will then change the registered status of the patient from registered to whatever you set up within the registered status set up here. Again, here are the default settings and all self-explanatory. Enrolment transferred to new provider, do not change. Enrolment, patient opted out, set at registered. Patient deceased, our default is deceased. Patient not eligible, the default is set at registered. Number link, registered. Enrolment expired, default is set at not registered. And again, organisation ended, we've set this at not registered. So when the organisation ends the enrolment, that's a type of end enrolment, an option given by the Ministry of Health for the practices to use. The last tab here, Audit Tab, which gives you a log or history of any changes, just like any other section in Medtech, and you can see a tracking of the dates and details here. So the same as you use or what you already know about the Audit Tab. Once you have completed the setup and a successful validation of the credentials, you can then press OK and exit out of Medtech to commit these changes. And that now concludes the setup and configuration of NHI and staff setup for Medtech 32.